Learning about Gemara. Today's daf is daf Chof. We're now into the sugya of Shavuos. So we're up to the two dafs of Chof Amud Aleph, and we are going to just a quick introduction. We learned already in Masechet Nedarim. There's this fundamental distinction between a Shavuot and a neder. A neder is where you prohibit the object. You say the chefza, the object is forbidden to me. Like kikar asr. Kikar is asr alai. This bread is asr to me. How do you make a neder? You make a neder is you compare it to a davar hanodar. Nobody say it should be like a carbon. Carbon is an animal which is permitted, and I have the right to take that animal and to consecrate it and transform it to make it asr. So I'm not saying this bread should be like that. So in a neder, you have to spell out what you're doing, and then you also then have to compare it to something which is not. But if I say, yes, exactly. If I say this bread should be forbidden to me like a piece of chazer, it's not a neder because a chazer you didn't prohibit. It's not up to you. It's the Eibush to prohibit it. That's neder. Shavuot is I will not do something. That's a sure. I won't eat. I won't do this. I won't do that. It's all about me. It's on the gaver. It's on the person. And the Gemara is going to discuss the language, the text that you use. If instead of using the word shvuah or neder, use the word isser. What does isser mean? So says the Gemara, we have a brisa here. We're interesting. The brisa itself is sort of a bit doubtful. Questions and doesn't really resolve it. Taught about me learned 7 lines on top of the page. Taught about me learned mifta. The word mifta, which means to utter, express with your lips, shavua. That's tantamount to saying the word shavua. I'm taking upon myself a vow. Iser, if you use the word iser, is also a shavua. If I say iser kikas alai, that this bread is, or I'm not going to eat this bread, or iser alai, I am kikazu. I'm asking on myself this bread. That's the same as saying the word shavua. But what happens? Isar, what exactly is the Isar? What is the basis for the prohibition of the word Isar? Im ata aimed Isar Shavua Chayiv. If you're going to treat the word Isar just like any other Shavua, what do we know about a Shavua? Now, a Shavua is, if by mistake you went ahead and you breach a Shavua, you bring a special carbon called Oile V'Yodet, right? There's a carbon that commensurate, fluctuates. But if you made a neder and you didn't abide by a neder, you don't bring a carbon. So now he says, so what is the basis for the word Isser? So he said this: Im ato aimer Isser shvur. If you're going to treat it like a shvur, then chayiv, and you didn't follow it by mistake, you bring your carbon. But if not, potter. So the Gemara says, what? That's the whole brisa. I don't understand. You started out the brisa saying that Isser is a shvur. And then you're saying, if Isser, then you're asking a question. You're saying, I don't know. If Isser is like a shvur and you breached it, you bring a carbon. If it's not like a shvur, you don't bring a carbon. You just said, yeah, you're definitive. You said definitively that it's a shvur. What do you mean if you say is a shvur? Well, Amrit is a shvur. You started out by saying that is a shvur. Amar Abaye Hachakam. So Abaye comes along, and Rava will give a different shot. This is Abaye learns. Abaye says, now, we know by a neder, if you say that this bread should be also to me like a carbon. Okay, so that bread now is a direct neder. You said you spelled out the problem. You spelled out what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and you compared it to something which is davar hanodar. Okay, that's first generation. If I then go to another piece of bread and I say that this bread should be also to me just like the first bread, or this bread should be like that bread, that's called hatfasa. You are attaching it to the it's chal. It works because you're saying that this bread should be just like that bread. That bread was originally permitted and I made it asr. And I'm going to bread loaf number 2 and I said this bread should be like the first one, asr. Question is, what about by shvua? I say that I won't eat meat today. Then I go, or I won't eat bread today. And then I go to another bread and I say, I want this bread to be like that bread. So I want that this bread should be to me just like that bread. Is there hatfasa by shvua as well or not? Says Abaye. That's the question. This is how you learn. Mifta, if you use the word mifta shvua, that's clearly an expression of a shvua. No, mifta that I'm not going to eat this bread. But Isser is mitzvahs b'shvua. Isser is only, it's like a second generation. If you use the word Isar, it's like you're saying that this, I am taking that this, I'm also that this bread, I'm not going to eat this bread just like that one. That's what mitzvah says. So Isa, what exactly is the basis? If you can say generally, forget about this case. Generally, if I'm just like Hatfasa works by Neder, Hatfasa works by Shvua, then chayiv. Then if you didn't follow it, you bring a carbon leviated. But in la, but you can tell me by shul, you don't have the rules of hatfasa. Only by neder, you can carry over from one bread to another bread. But you can't carry over from myself to myself. Then potter, you are potter. Okay, we're just quickly learning here. I'm getting into very pedantic now in Shavuot. We're going to miss the days that we learned Tumah. So here we have we spoke about the difference in neder and shvua. Neder is the bread is also to me, and shvua is that I will not eat the bread. And by neder is you have to, whenever you make a neder, the bread is also to me. You have to compare it to a dover hanodar, just like a carbon. It was permitted also. But if I say speak like a pasach chazer, it's not a neder. But then, so by neder we have the concept called hatfasa. I made a loaf of bread also like a carbon, and then I go to another loaf of bread and I said I want this bread to be like the first one. It carries over. The question now is, by the way he's learning the Bryce is that the Bryce is not sure, but what about by Shavua? Your matfis by Shavua. I said I won't eat this bread, and then I go over and saying, and this I won't eat this bread like the first one. Is there hatfosa that the Isa in the first one carries over? Because by Shavua it's on the person. Questionable. And the Bryce saying the Bryce, that's the Bryce is questioning. Because if it's like a Shavua and you don't follow it, you bring carbon out of the that's not. Says the Gemara. So I'm going to say, first of all, how do you know the mifta? Abaye, the Bryce said the word. If you said the word using the word shvua, you said mifta. I uttered my lips. That's also the language of a shvua. How do you know? Because you look at the original pasuk of shvua, it says there, "Oy nefesh ki sishava." If a person will swear, "Live vate bisvasaim." So we see that shvua exactly, even though it says the word shvua in the pasuk, but it says levate. Ebazei iser. Why does the Bryce? Is that differentiating between no, whether it's a neder or whether it's a shvur or whether b'chal means anything. Maybe it's just words. If you only use the word mifta without using the word shvur, does there any? Is there a chalais? Because if you say words, we learned in the first mission of Durham, you have the shvur, you have the neder, then you have the yadler neder.
Say, I swear that such and such.
That's right. I said instead of saying the word shvur, you say the word I'm expressing.
I won't have that.
I know I'm a vata. Use the word mifta. Use the word mevata. Is that a word of shvua? So because of that very passage, the juxtaposition of shvua and levate, it means that that it's a lashon of shvua. Nu ebazeh. If that's how you're going to interpret, then isa nami said the word isa is no question. It says the chsiv. It says v'chol neder v'chol shvuas isa that a man, if a woman is married to a man, is ready to shvua, it's up to the husband whether he cancels or not. So it says the chol neder, the chol shvuas, isa. So it's clearly that isa is a shvua. If you're going to look, whatever's the next word shvua, then it's a shvua as well. What's the question? Says the Gemara. So how you know that Isser means not Shvua? You're telling me the way Abai learns Isser is not a direct Shvua. Isser is hatfosa. When I use the word Isser, I mean that this should be just like the other. In other words, even though Abai is saying, you didn't start the pshat is I said, I won't eat bread today. And then I walked over to this bread. And I walked over to another bread that says, and I want that this bread should be like that. I don't want to eat this bread like the first one. That's not what Abai is saying. Abai is saying when you use the word Isser, it's as if you made the first bread, also, I won't eat the bread, and now you came over. Not that you actually did it. It's as if. It's as if. And we treat like hakfasa. So the mother, so why would you think that the word Isser means hatfasa? Because it says pasuk. It says another pasuk, it says, and if let's say she's married, Osra Isser al Nafsha, Bishvua. Because it says the word also Isal Nafsha Bishvua. Sounds like Bishvua, the shvu you already made. Sounds like in the pasuk you made a shvu before, and now also Isa on top of that you made another Isa. In other words, on another loaf of bread. So it's like that's why you think that maybe the word Isa is not a direct shvua, but rather it's a case. It's like you're comparing it, even though you didn't made another shvua before. It's like you did it. If that's how you learn it, then mifta nami. Well, look at the pasuk of mifta. It says in the pasuk, see, it says that a person makes a shvua l'choil asher yevata adam, and you have to abide by everything you say. It says that by the l'ral hated l'chol asher yevata adam. It says b'shvua. Make the same drasha with an original. You already made original shvua, and now you're making another shvua. So say that the word biti also means hatfasa, as if it's hatfasa, and you should have the same suffix. Why are you saying mifta means definitely a shvua outright, and only by issa do you say that it means hatfasa? And questionable is there hatfasa by shvua or not? Where do you know that from? I want to buy it. Mifta shvua. I know that mifta means a direct shvua. I'm not comparing to anything else. Mahach from the following pasuk. It says if this woman will get married to a man, she has a daughter on her. And there doesn't mention the word shvua. It just says mifta. So what is it? How did it become asatur? Must be that mifta is a shvua. Doesn't mention a word about shvua in this pasuk. So we see mifta on its own is also a shvua. That's how I know mifta is. So mifta is the rek shvua. The word isr is hatfasa. And the question is, so what's this is how actually the question is, what is hatfasa? Is there hatfasa or not? Is it like, and Rabbi says that's not pshat at all in the Brisa. I'll tell you, mitzvahs b'shvur lav k'moitze shvur b'dami. If you're mitzvah shvur, it's not like you're a mitzvah b'shvur. It's not like you're saying a shvur outright. If you're mitzvahs, which means you're saying that this bread, I'm asking this bread like the first one, nothing happens. Where is Isa coming from? Where are you pulling Isa from? We don't drag from one loaf because it's not the loaf that's us. Remember, it's you that asks on the bread, so it doesn't drag over to the next shvur. No shvur b'dami. Machlekes the shame means there's nothing at all happen here, or there's no carbon or anything else. No, because the din of a carbon of oil of the yeda doesn't apply, but maybe it's still binding, and you're still able to yachal dvar, breaching your words all that. Okay, come and this is the brisa. Mifter the shvua. Isa nami shvua asrei, and Isa is also shvua. So what's pshat in the brisa? Because the hatfasa is no hatfasa. So what's pshat in the brisa? I'm not sure what it is. What aren't you sure? What's the base of this? I'll tell you what we're not sure. We're not sure if it has the status of a neder or it has the status of a shvur. Because if it's the status of a shvur, you bring a carbon out of the yed if you don't follow the word isa. But if it's a neder, then you don't bring a carbon out of the yed. Why do we have a suffix? Because in the pasuk it's sandwiched between the word neder and shvur. So the isa hitila hakasa be neder shvur. In the pasuk is sandwiched right between the word neder and between the word shvur, and that's why we have a suffix. It says that kol neder chol shvur is isa. In the pasuk you have neder, and that's sandwiched in between, but it's close to neder and to shvur. So which one is it? Neder. So it depends how you said it. If you said the word isa, but you said this kicker is also to me, you start out with isa, but you say isa kicker is alai. So you're talking about the bread. That's how you talk about by neder. Then there has it said of a neder. If you breached it, you don't bring a carbon. But if you use b'lashon shvur, that isa alai kicker then it's all about me. Then it's like a shua. If you don't follow it, you bring a carbon. Heichen hitilu, where do you find this pasuk? The base isha nedara ay asa isar al nafsha. Bishvur. Sorry, it is sandwich between. I was looking at the wrong pasuk. So right here, it's between the word neder, between the word shua. That means it could be both ways. It depends how the rest of the sentence goes. So now, why Sabai says it's all a question about hatfos and shvur. Rabbi says no question. That definitely doesn't work. It's a question of whether it's a neder or a shvur. So it says the Gemara because they consistent with their view. That if you matter the shvur, it's mamish a shvur. And Rabbi says and that's why all the Shem have a problem with the whole shot we just learned right now. Abaye just told us that that's the question of the brisa. Is matzahs reshua work? It doesn't work. And now Abaye says clearly, definitively, it does not work. What's going on here? So the other Shem learned that Abaye is talking about a different case than before. But there's one thing is where you said it's as if you were matzahs bread number 2 and bread number 1, but there was no bread number 1. Abaye here is talking about where there was a bread number 1, and now there's a bread number 2, and you're saying that bread number 2 should be like bread number 1. By shvur, it doesn't work. But we're talking before is there was no bread number 1. You just said, I won't. Anyway, different shot. Let's continue. So that's a question on Rava. Ask a question on Rava. You say there's no hatfasa by shvur. That says the following. Ezo Isra B'Torah says in the Mishnah. What's Isra the Torah says? I take upon myself. I take upon myself. I won't eat meat. I won't drink wine. This is like a neder now, because by a neder you're comparing it to a yard site. By yard site, some people fast, and therefore, and that you don't have to. So you took upon yourself made an Isra. So this day should be just like a yard site. In other words, I'm being matfus in the dover hanoder. Ki yom shemes beplenty, or like day like this great person died, and we took upon ourselves. Or ki yom shenel b'gedalia melachikot, same gedalia. Ki yom shero Yishalayim b'chabana, like the day you saw Yishalayim b'chabana, you fast. All these cases are awesome. It's a valid neder. V'mashmo, v'hu shenoder ubam oisayim. Remember, you're being matfus in something a dover another. So first you had to establish I'm going to fast on the yard side. So once you acid the day I'm eat food on the day of the yard side, then you come along and say, I want today to be usher to me, just like the day of the yard side. Then there's already, I put an Easter on the day of the yard side, so I'm carrying that Easter over to today. If you never acid the day of the yard side, you just say, oh, I want this day to be usher to me like a yard side day, it means nothing. your yard side day is not also to you. So what do you, what are you comparing it to? No, it has to be a car. This should be like a carbon. That there was a carbon already. So,
Easter has to have something to do.
to drag along. A yard side is a very personal thing, so it does not become usher unless you make it usher. Not everybody passes. All these are the same thing, except Gedalia. We'll see in a minute. The talk about. The talk about in a minute. So by time Gedalia, I didn't make it usher. The Rabbanim made it usher. What am I dragging over? We'll see in a minute. Anyway, so it says that what? So he's talking about Ned, and he says we're talking about Fossa. According to Baya, since with the matfish beneder neder, since we see the hat fossa works by neder, is matfish b'shua shua. So the same thing applies by shua as well. That hat fossa works. So why didn't Shmuel just talk out Shua? Why give an example of Neder? He's saying Eze Iser Ambatet, right? And Shmuel saying from Hatfosa. And Abai said just like Hatfosa works by Neder, works by Shua. Why doesn't he say then outright Shua? So Teresa says because most people don't make Shuas, they make Nadarim. This should be also me. This should be forbidden to me. And Teresa says, "Ain't a gilas lesser asam b'shua." People generally don't make Shuas. Maybe you're more scared of Shuas, or you talk more about this should be forbidden to me, rather than I forbid myself from eating that. Anyway, thinking about Abaye, Abaye makes sense. El Rav, Kasher Rav, I got a problem. I don't know, I got a problem because he starts out the word Isra and he's talking about Atfosa. So the Gemara, Rav, Teritz, this I should learn Pshat. It's a neder on potato. Shmuel is only talking about neder. He says all of these different languages. It's only talking about a case where he actually made a neder on that day. So we're only talking about. He's not talking about stam iser, which is what way we learned, which therefore covers also Shavuos. No, he's talking about to add one more word. Iser neder. Iser neder. Tracy before said that because of the language here, if it's a neder, hare alai shala oichel basa does not a language of a neder. That's the language of a shua. Hare alai, I take upon myself not to eat. So Tracy says we weren't. The purpose of this Mishnah was not to be particular about the language you use, more about the word isa, what isa means. So therefore, it really should have said differently.
Does that mean that you mamish? I just finished.
No.
Tomorrow should be
that you once made a neder that you won't on the yard side you won't eat, and now you're comparing number two to number one. You have what to compare it to drag along. Another.
Isn't that what you just said?
Tell me if you need. If
Sorry.
what we're talking about here now, a direct neder. We're not talking about hatfosses. No, it's not saying we're not talking about fussing at all. We're talking about what a neder is.
Isn't your example?
By neder, every neder you have to do two things. You have to express what I want to do. So I want to ask for the bread, right? And then you have to compare it to something else. That's how a neder works. A neder mahatayr, then you have yodas and kenuyim, if you didn't do it properly. But a proper neder is you say the bread is also to me, and then you have to add like whatever, a carbon, like a yard side, something. You have to be able to compare something else. So it says, we're not talking about fossa here. We're talking about what a direct neder. So what is that? We're talking about direct neder. Pshita, that's the din of neder. What's the chiddush in this Mishnah? You're right. The chiddush is kiyam sheneder b'gedalia chachikim. So gedalia. Each I would have thought. I would have thought keep the chilin neder nami also. If I wouldn't have made a neder, it would have been us. Is ki neder nami lahavileis. If I made a neder, it should be in us. It's not a dobra neder. That it is. Rashi brings that those people who explain, he doesn't like it, but those people who explain that since Tzem Gedalia is only Midrabanan, that means Mahatayda, if you say I won't eat on Tzem Gedalia, the neder is chal. Because Mahatayda you can eat on Tzem Gedalia. So therefore it's considered a davar hanodar. And if I say that this day, Stam Tuesday, should be like Tzem Gedalia, it's chal. Rashi doesn't like that because Rashi goes, even if Tzem Gedalia is also Mahatayda, you can the darim achal al davar mitzvah kedavar reshus. Another different shua. By shua we have a concept. If you can't make a shua fall on top of another shua, and you can't have a shua about something in Har Sinai because you're a kramush b'zayim Har Sinai. But by neder you could make a neder that this sukkah should be forbidden to me. You can make a neder on mitzvahs. That's what Rashi says. Taisa says doesn't understand what Rashi is saying here because the that when we say a neder is chal mitzvah is the neder is trying to cancel the mitzvah. You have to sit in the sukkah. I say the sukkah should be forbidden to me. We can't feed you something which is usher to you. But a shvua you can't do because you're already moved by hasina. You're just compounding and saying the same thing again. Some gedal you're not allowed to eat. If the mitzvah, if some gedal will be, you have to eat some gedal. If you have to, I make a neder that some gedal is usher to me, then neder will be chal. But if you already have a mitzvah to fast, and then come and make a neder to fast, what's it being challah? There's nothing to do with challah. That's this as an ashif. That takes to bring our opinion taka that is chal even in that case as well. Because according to those who hold there's boyin lekayim mitzvah, just like a shvua helps to support a mitzvah, it goes to help by neder. And as you want to write, that one had first the word the chiyasa mifte is a shvua that I won't eat. Isa is like even Isa is not like that Abayu says it's hot fuss. No, it's a direct expression of our shvua. Now the Gemara says an interesting thing. If a guy says I will eat and I won't eat. Now very important when you give somebody a warning to do Aveda deliberately, you have to specify exactly what Aveda they're doing. If you quote the wrong Aveda, then he can say, well, I knew you were wrong, so I thought there's no Aveda here. I thought you're not modest. So eating or not eating is will eat or won't eat, and then you don't listen and check it. That's called a. If I remember this time, I'll tell you the interesting story of Kivega. We just said check it. I will eat, I won't eat, and you don't listen. It's a lie. So which pasuk should you give azhara from? So this is future, but it's a lie because the words that you said right now will be a lie because you can eat even though you said I won't. So you have to tell them the pasuk because that's what this falls under. But if you talk about past tense, which is a lie, then you say shav. The other pasuk, shav means wasted words. Wasted words because you said about a past which you can't undo or change, and it's not true. It's a therefore you have to give the right pasuk. Kunmas, if you say kaimas, which is kainam alai, which is a neder, it should be like a carbon, is over only by a neder you're over. If you don't follow through, below yachal devarim, don't breach your words. You got to know each of what it is. Shav is past, check is future. But these are all shavuos, and the yachal is the dar. Makes us a question. It says the Bryce says shav shekel and the shav shekel both exact same thing. You're separating them. You say shekel future, shav is past. It says the same thing. My lab and the shav shekel now the shav they're both past. Alma. So is it clearly a chalti shekel? So what do you tell me a chalti is shav? It seems to me that it's shekel. Could be either one. But you want immediate does it say that? How can he say? Each one is different dinim. No, but they might have what it means that's one thing. The kedibur echad Hashem said the shav and shekel, the commandments, both at the same time. Kedetanya, like it says, like it says. What is it? Just like Zachar said, David said one thing, Masha ain't yochel but nobody can say that. Masha ain't normally can hit two words at the same time. But that would happen in the nest by the says of Ibris. And the same thing is when it comes to shav. It's like shav. They said word shekel at the same time. That's all it means. But why would they have to do that? You don't make nisim for nothing. By mishlema hasim b'divrei when it comes to zacha v'shamar, the taka had to say b'divrei teacher halacha. Women are chayiv in kiddush ma'atoyda, even though the chayil is a mitzvah says mangrama. It's a positive mitzvah which is time bound. The Amakra says the positive zacha v'shamar. Kol sheyeshna b'shmira. Anybody's included in the shmira in the negative. You're not allowed to do averis on Shabbos. Yeshna b'shmira. When it comes to negative, there's no difference men and women. All the kol kula. It's the same thing, right? Because you do it in the passive way, don't do it. Is hani noshe ha'el v'yishna b'shmira since they're included in the shmira. He's not b'schira. What do you need shav and shekel? If you tell me that shekel is future and shav is past, then what do you have to say if you make a nest to say one word shav and shekel at the same time? Ella can no. You want to say you don't. Ella, it does teach you a din. Kishem shaloika al shav kach loika name al shekel. Now remember, shav is past tense. It's a lav she'ein by ma'isa. What do you do? I just said words. Future tense, it could be a ma'isa. I said I won't eat. I swore I will not eat this bread. And then if I go ahead and I eat it, I just did a ma'isa. So I get malchus. But yet the Gemara is saying that we're going to compare shekel to shav. Just like shav gets malchus, so too shekel. Yeah, but that's no. Shav means past tense. I ate. I didn't eat. For the Gemara klapilai, doesn't make sense. Shav, you shouldn't get malchus. It's a lav. All it is words, right? I lied or I didn't lie. But saying a future tense is a possibility. I'm doing a ma'isa. So if anything, shav is compared to shekel. Elemi, you're right. Kishem shaloika al shekel, kach loika al nami al shav. Just like you get malchus on shekel, which is a ma'isa, so too by shav. Said Gemara Pshita, Halav, Halav. Why would you need even why do you need a chiddush, this miracle? Why would you think Shav you don't get? Said Gemara Mouth. They were talking about a papa Abai. Like a papa asked Abai, how do you know that that you will get malchus for shav and lo yanake klau. Maybe the pasuk is like lo yanake means that nobody is going to take a clean your mechapiyu. That means Bezin won't administer any. Remember, a punishment for Bezin is a kapara. No kapara at all, not even in the hands of Bezin. Kamashal, like Abai will answer the papa. We'll see the more later. Abai answer the papa. So therefore, and that's a chiddush. Or you say maybe carbon sheker, maybe carbon shav. And you know what you need to shove a sheker? Just like you bring a carbon. Right, carbon oil of the yoted. If you said you'll do something and you forgot, you bring same thing about the past. You thought you didn't need, turned out to be you did. You bring a carbon. That's what we need. Shav and sheker. The Abishah said, "B'dibarech." Said you want Rabbi Kiva, and this follows Rabbi Kiva. What's the chiddush? Remember, Rabbi Shmuel holds that you only bring a carbon of the yoted about future Shavuos. Lahara lahativ is eat. I will eat or I won't eat. And then the extension is I will throw a stone. I won't throw a stone where I don't impact myself. Kamlong Rabbi Kiva says no. The extension is past tense. And not only if I lied about the past, I thought I didn't eat, I forgot. And so Shaygig, you bring a carbon oil of the yoted. And that's why the Abishah made this nest of Zach of Shama or Sheker and Shav. Now, Based on the question, it says it clearly, Shav. The definition of Shav is, Shav means something that it's a waste of words because everybody knows it. So either if I swear that this stone is a stone, everybody knows a stone. Or if I swear that it's now daytime when actually it's night, everybody knows it's not. Anything that everybody knows is called Shav. Sheker is something that only you know. I swear that I didn't eat, but you did eat. Who knows? Only you. That's called sheker. So to say you do a lot of them, you want to change something that everybody knows about. That's shav. What sheker? Nishba lahachliv. You want to change the past. Clearly here that sheker is the past as well. You just said Abdimi that sheker is the future. Sheker is the past. Shmuel says you're right. Amo, let us say nishba umachlif. Well, we don't say lahachliv means the past tense. Umachlif in the future. He changes what he said. He swore I won't eat the bread. No. Machlif is the future. Lihachliv is to change the past. And he will change. When he will change, he swore, I won't eat bread today, and then he went ahead and ate it. So he will change what he said. In other words, sticking to what Adimi said, Shav is the past, and Sheker is the future. Comes along this quick argument. How that's the name of Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Dimi said name of Rabbi Yechon. Ki also Ravin constantly argued over Rabbi Dimi what Rabbi Yechon said. Obviously, one of them learned in the earlier years, one of them learned in the later years. Rabbi Yechon might have changed his mind. Ki also Ravin, Rabbi Yechon. When Ravi came along, he said name of Rabbi Yimir, name of Rabbi Avu, name of Rabbi Yechon. Achalti v'lo yachalti past tense is sheker. In other words, because it's a private thing, only you know about it, even though it's the past. That's called sheker. What about future? We'll see in a minute. You got to get the right pasuk. Sheker is past. I will eat. I won't eat. He says future, even by a shvua. You said that layachal dvar is limited only to nedarim. A vow. You breached a vow. Tell them layachal dvar. And shvua is, you said, what Rabbi said is sheker. He says no. Sheker is all about past tense. Future tense. I don't care. Shvua. I don't care. Neder is layachal dvar. Don't breach your words. The eze is shvua shav. So what's the definition of shav? Nishba l'shanas is how you do a lot of them. You want to swear, change. The rock is a rock. Everyone, or you're saying that the rock is water. Everyone knows it's not true. Now, the Gemara tomorrow will continue. How do we know the second Rabbi Yechon's version rather than the first? Whether sheker is past tense or future tense. Till tomorrow, Mr. Shep. Nope, we missed the days.